AI is an integral part of business, and certainly digital assistants, digital human type applications, 2 or 3 years, I think it'll be widespread. I genuinely do. And that's where, if you're not thinking about it now, I think you need to review your strategy.
Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Squeezing the Juice. This week it's my pleasure to introduce to the show Rob Sims, CEO and co-founder of Sum Vivas, a creative technology business producing AI integrated digital humans that empower business and customers. Rob, very warm welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Yeah, very well, thanks Owen. Yourself?
Yep, not too bad, thank you. It's brilliant to have you on. I've been looking forward to this conversation for some time since I first kind of learnt about Sum Vivas and what you guys are up to. Particularly keen to explore the kind of integration between digital humans and avatars and XR, obviously the space that we operate in and the podcast is about at its core. But yeah, before we get into all that, if we can maybe just cover off a little bit of your origin story, Rob, because I think that's really interesting in terms of how you've come to be in this space at all.
Yeah, sure. I'm 25 years plus in tech and comms. My other co-founder has got a background in events and performance. And post-COVID, we were having a chat about how to bring a bit more of an immersive feel into an event that Denise was creating. And I jokingly said, well, if you're struggling to get artists, why don't we create one? And from that joke turned into a germ of an idea. Anyone that's ever met Denise, she tends to run very hard at ideas that he thinks will work. And we started on producing what is now Dex, which is a digital human DJ that's interactive and works across a whole series of media. Through that, I was working in a different business at the time, but I started to get more into how do we use AI with an emotional connection, the avatar element, and then look at applications. And I basically thought this could be a really tremendous application that could work across a whole range of different businesses. So I stopped being the CEO of a previous business and went back to be a CEO of a startup business with all the fun and games that entails. And through there, we've evolved a whole range of different products, all geared around the same core structure of lifelike digital avatars that create familiarity and friendliness. You can see one behind me rather, coupled with agentic AI. So they're not just there to look good and be a bit of a gimmick. They're there to provide a service or a function to a business.
Fantastic. So in terms of digital humans, what's the current state of play with them? And I'd love to get into that element of kind of level of realism. And I know there's a whole area to discuss there. But in terms of the state of the art or the art of the possible with digital humans, where are we at the moment? Everything
we do is in real time. So we don't use AI for our creativity. We use our own devs. We're an Unreal Engine house and have been right from inception. So you can get to a photorealistic presentation, but when you're going into real time, we tend to ensure that our avatars are familiar, are friendly, they do look like the representations that they want them to do, but we don't go to that photorealistic level because we don't want to spook people, we don't want to trick people. It's very obvious you're not speaking to a live person, but you are speaking to somebody that's comfortable and familiar. So we've avoided that uncanny valley. Is this quite real stumbling block by being a little bit stepped back from photorealistic.
And that's as you say, I guess, because you don't want people to feel tricked, and maybe there's an element of our readiness a societal level to interact with digital humans. What have you sort of found in your work so far in terms of people's level of comfort, I suppose, with these different levels of photorealism?
Certainly initially it's a completely mixed bag. You get people that are fascinated, you get people that are skeptical, and you get people that are somewhere in between. What we've found, however, is the time to suspend disbelief is incredibly short. Because we're working in real time where you ask a question or you get posed a question by the avatar, because of the emotional intelligence, the gestures, the nodding, the blinking, the real-time speech, what we found, and it is genuinely very, very quickly an adoption cycle. Even the most skeptical people initially, after 2 or 3 questions, they'll sort of end the engagement, and quite often you'll get a thank you, and then they realise that they're talking to a screen, but they're using manners as you would with a normal person.
Great stuff. So yeah, I think it must be fascinating to kind of study people's behaviours when interacting with digital humans. What have you found to be some of the barriers? Because I think we're touching on some of them already, but in terms of maybe at an organisational level, what are some of the common barriers, or have been the common barriers to adoption?
I think the biggest initial challenge is that because it's new technology or technology that's been applied in a new way, you have that awareness challenge that these things can actually perform a function and that they sit alongside your team. So this perception has changed quite dramatically over the last 12 months, but in the early days, it was very much, I don't want to be seen as a business that's replacing people with technology, because all the great stories about AI all tend to be, again, initially around doom and gloom. You're going to take all our jobs. You're going to kill us at midnight, and all those sort of Terminator type stories. I think there's a much greater level of awareness in industry now. I think a lot of people have been using language like GPT type applications and seeing that there are genuine business benefits. So they're more curious now. So it's more acceptable to start a conversation. For sure, some of the challenges are still there in terms of how does this fit in with my workforce? How does it fit in my brand? How can I ensure that I've got consistency and that the answers that the avatars are going to deliver will represent my brand in the right way and they won't hallucinate and things like that. So it's partly security, partly brand awareness, partly how can I use this to drive benefits for my business. But that has changed, let's say, an awful lot over the last 12 months or so, where this type of technology is starting to become more aware. I wouldn't say commonplace, but more aware.
And are we in a way sort of reliving the chatbot adoption cycle? Because I recall how opposed a lot of people were to chatbots, particularly in customer service applications early on. And now I think most of us would probably accept that actually you can get to a solution very, very quickly, often through a chatbot. Is that what we're seeing?
I think it's the same with any of those early adoption models, whether it be an Alexa or a Siri type approach as well, where people are skeptical, and then skepticism turns into familiarity, that turns into it's just there in the background and it's working. Where I think we differentiate, and certainly differentiate from a more traditional chatbot type approach, is that we're using natural speech, multilingual speech. We're using text and speech, so we respond both verbally and with a text-based answer. We confirm that whatever the person said, that's shown in text as well, so they understand the avatar has heard them correctly. And I think the biggest other differentiator is this emotional connection that comes from talking to something that looks like you or I, that has the degree of familiarity, that is nodding and gesturing, that it's not just I'm tapping a question into a text box, knowing that it'll come through. And I think I tie that back to this suspension of disbelief, because it's a much more familiar, much more conversational type approach than just a text box type chat.
Great stuff. I'd like to get into applications of digital humans pretty soon, but just before I do, in terms of the design of a digital human, and not everyone will watch this podcast, some will just be listening to the audio. So, but for those that are watching, there's a great example of a digital human, as Rob says, over his right shoulder. But what are some of the factors that go into the design of a digital human for you and your team, Rob? What do you have control over? What levers do you have?
Okay, so we're totally customer led. So the options are ethnicity, gender, aging group, hair colour, eye colour, textures, through to branding, through to the look and the feel. We have the ability to clone voices, so we can do synthesized voice. So if you want to have a regional accent, you can really customize the avatar to fit in with the brand. And that's very much the approach that we take, that when we're speaking to customers in terms of the engagement cycle, all the way through the piece, I ask them to imagine they were recruiting a new employee. What would that ideal employee be? How would they fit in with your team? How would they represent your brand? I'm going into the role profile now and more of the AI rather than the aesthetic side of things. But it is that principle, what's the best representation to suit your brand and to suit the role that you want this digital human to take. So it's really an iterative process between ourselves and the customer. We've done a human representative, as you can see there, through to animations of logos, through to animations of we've actually done Superland Banana for the Liverpool community. We've done a digital AI integrated Superland Banana. So it's really down to the imagination of the customer to come up with what they're looking for.
Out of interest, when you ask that question to clients, what do you want them to be and to embody? Do they ever roll out an actual person from their team and say this is the closest we have to a human embodiment of our brand?
Yes, we have the ability to do digital doubles as well, so we can do scans of people. So it is a genuinely true to life representation. Some individuals have asked that for themselves. Some people have said, well, we're already using this person in videos. Can we then turn that video? We've had the same thing from a mascot perspective as well. So there's a mascot that people recognise and use. Well, let's transpose that into an integrated one that there's already an engagement process. It further deepens that.
Love it. Okay, so let's get on to applications then, Rob. So what have you seen to be the most common applications, or is there a typical kind of first step into adoption or use of digital humans for clients? What have been some of the more common applications you've seen so far?
So our approach so far has been focused around high footfall areas. So that's shopping centres, arenas, airports, things like that. Any location where you've got a large number of people coming through that aren't totally familiar with the surroundings, perhaps looking for a specific store or a specific location, and traditionally there's no one around to help them, and they end up wasting time walking around getting frustrated. So that type of application works really well. What we've done recently, however, we've introduced a series of web agents, social agents, and most recently phone agents, which again means that these can now be positioned on a website to act as customer service. They can be general brand ambassadors. They can be product champions or customer service champions. So it's that best application of question, answer, how can I support you in a timely way, how can I provide information, how can I enable you to connect with me as a brand, get the information that you need and allow you to go on your way in the most timely fashion.
So is it fair to say that most of your client base to date have been on the commercial and the corporate side in terms of who's buying digital human projects and humans from you?
Yeah, very much so. We have done some hospitality and entertainment type applications. We've done some, I class it as storytellers that act as guides or information givers. But to date, the greatest use has been in this guest services, customer services, support application, part of a wider team within the organisations, but acting in a specific functional way.
Obviously, we're seeing more and more the worlds of AI and XR, extended reality, kind of converging and coming together with some pretty kind of powerful and magical applications. In terms of digital humans, where do you see those worlds kind of colliding, and have you been involved in projects that lean on XR technologies as well as digital human and AI type tech?
Yeah, from the entertainment side of things, I think anybody that's going to any form of performance now, I think you've got a more demanding audience. I think you want a really truly immersive experience to give it that wow factor. So we've combined digital humans with some interactive backgrounds, some use of mobile apps to bring it through that way. So I think for us that's the leading way. But again, I do think as that becomes more commonplace, then that can drop into more of a traditional business type setting, whether that's at conferences and events, putting an additional dimension into presentations. We recently supported Liverpool City Region at their inaugural AI Summit, and we had digital humans as part of the MC team doing the introductions. They were there as guides, and they were there as entertainment as well. So we worked all the way through the piece.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think my mind sort of gets racing around applications in training and other areas. I suppose we know XR is increasingly mature,
yeah.
And the opportunity to bring digital humans into those types of settings and applications to, again, not replace people like training managers, but to enhance and make more accessible, perhaps, and make more personable the training experience.
Yeah, it very much supplements, certainly on an online training perspective, where what our solutions do, they take a one-way interaction to be fully conversant. So you can watch a training video, take part of an online training course, and then you've got the ability for the digital instructor to go, okay, and we've just gone through that section. Let me ask you a couple of questions about it to understand. Or how was your understanding of that? If you anything that you want some more information on, so it becomes a two-way process that helps to further develop that understanding. That can be taken all the way through to, okay, let's do a quick test at the end of this now. What do you think about, or what's your answer to? Again, you're building that through. The nice thing about using the technology is these things are non-judgmental. They're not going to be. You can ask the silly question without feeling that it's a silly question, because you're not speaking to one of your colleagues or one of your superiors. You know that you're speaking to technology, but you feel comfortable working with it because of that.
Yeah, and therein lies the empowerment, I think, from your sort of mission statement, that the empowerment of businesses and of customers who are interacting with digital humans to give them a level of confidence that, like say, they can ask what otherwise they might fear is a silly question. Yeah. But also, I think that I presume I'm right in saying that that the digital human there is no biases there. There is no interaction you will have with them that is in any way passed through a lens, a societal lens. It's completely clean.
Correct, and that goes back to that initial engagement with the organisation or the brand in terms of this digital representation is your brand. What are your brand values? Let's talk about inclusivity. Let's talk about how you care for your people. Let's talk about the approach that you have with your customers. And all of that is embedded into the persona of the avatar, which then manages that way. I had a meeting on Friday with a team that do cultural training, helping businesses to ensure that they've got the right balance and mixture of staff, and they're very interested in taking the technology to enable to do that, especially with the multilingual capabilities. The other thing that we've found as well in terms of this engagement side of things is that we've had quite a lot of engagement from the neurodiverse community, because again, it's back to, it's not confrontational, they're comfortable, familiar, there's no challenges, they're not being judged in any way. And you know, some of the applications have had really strong engagement from learning development and a training perspective.
I was going to ask about neurodiversity and the challenges, I guess, some people have to genuine human-to-human social interaction and where this kind of sits with that. And I suppose to append to it, if you've seen some really compelling health care or mental health applications for digital humans so far. We're
speaking to 3 organisations currently. We haven't deployed anything so far, but we're speaking to 3 different healthcare mental support organisations where they see, I guess it's a mixture of encouragement in terms of support, help and guidance whenever and however that's needed. So there's always someone there on hand to ask questions to. All the way through to breaking down isolation and loneliness by having a companion. And I guess the third aspect of the people that we're speaking to is from a social care perspective, where you've got juniors or young adults who've been in the care community throughout the younger years that don't really know how to adapt to society, and they're in a transition into moving into true adulthood. How can they be supported and guided as well? So again, I think there's some real strong social benefits that the applications can support as well as the commercial side of things.
Good stuff. Lovely. So in terms of your own personal take on digital humans, I think when we've chatted previously at events and what have you, you've talked about kind of if only we'd had this technology in days past. What is your? I'm always interested in your personal take, and this is me presuming Rob. By the way, we have the human Rob Sims with us today. I should have probably checked that up top. But yeah, what's your personal take on this technology?
Well, we do have a digital version of Rob Sims, but he's younger and more handsome, so you have got the real one. My take on this, I'm not sure if I mentioned this to you in terms of one of my passion projects, if you like, was my mum had a stroke. She's passed away now. Before she passed, she had a stroke, but she always lit up when she was visited and we were there with her. And going back to that companion approach that I just spoken about, as we've been developing the propositions, I thought if I could have given that digital me to my mum to have a chat with on an iPad, that would have really supported and taken it through. So I think engagement across the level is somewhere that this type of technology will start to come more commonplace over the next couple of years. I absolutely see engagement from a business perspective, not replacing, but working with teams. This type of application is absolutely perfect for frequently asked questions, whether that's from a website engagement, whether that's social media DM type Q&As, whether that's providing directions or information in physical locations, supplementing where people can't be built. It's not practical that someone stands in a shopping centre foyer 18 hours a day when it's rainy and windy and cold, but people do require support there. This type of application is an ideal replacement for that, allowing the human colleagues to work on more interesting and more important tasks. So I think using tech to support, allowing us to do more with the teams that we have and provide a more fulfilling role for the teams that we have as well by taking away the repetitive and the mundane elements. I think those are real big benefits. One of the things that we haven't touched on yet in terms of benefits that come through, and I think it's equally applicable whether we're talking in a commercial support or engagement setting or into some form of health type application. Every interaction that the avatars have, so every question that they're asked, every answer that they're given, we've built in a real-time reporting platform that sits with that. So the organisations that use them get real-time insights, and it genuinely is real-time. As soon as the interaction is finished, it's reported on the portal. So what you get over a period of time is a whole series of data sets and insights, and that can be as broad as the type of questions that are being asked, busy periods of days, are people asking about amenities, are people reporting issues or faults, are they looking for things that the store or the location doesn't currently sell, but perhaps they should do because there's a demand for it. And you can take that all the way through into that healthcare element of, I've been speaking to Rob and he's been totally coherent, but the last week he seems a little bit more confused. That needs to go to a care team to investigate, is it medicines have changed, has something changed? So you've got a support element that are coming through as well. Data is a real untold benefit for business, well, for organisations of all types, to be fair.
I think I know my view on this, I'd be interested in yours, but it feels like this technology is going to become a differentiator sooner rather than later. So it feels like the sort of thing where those that aren't on the adoption curve will suffer as a result of not looking at this seriously, especially in an age where I think we talk a lot as consumers about faceless brands, and we're never, unfortunately, far, I don't think, from the next brand interaction that feels faceless, and there isn't actually anybody there really talking to us and helping us through a situation. Just coming back from a week's holiday, I've had for the first time a cancelled flight situation, and a plane full of passengers and families all utterly frustrated by the lack of presence of somebody to support.
Yep.
In what actually is a relatively familiar scenario to people who run package holidays. Yep. So I'd be interested in your view of whether we're already seeing brands looking at digital human technology as this is a differentiator. We are investing in this because it does give a face to our brand in situations where our customers really need to speak to somebody.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely spot on. When you boil it down to brass tacks, what do our products do? They act as an interface between a customer and a brand, fulfilling their requirement, whether that's information, whether that's directions, or whatever that requirement is. I think, just using the example of the cancelled flight, the majority of frustrations come where there's a lack of information. If you know, okay, the flight's cancelled, okay, that's disappointing. The flight's cancelled. What's happening? I don't know. That leads to frustration. The flight's cancelled. We're assessing the situation. There's going to be an update in 10 minutes. I'll keep you abreast of it. I'll let you know what's going through. Okay, we've just found out there's going to be a 2-hour delay. 2-hour delay is disappointing, but it's a lot less frustrating than what's happening. Keep going to the board, keep looking for people, keep looking. So I think that engagement element is absolutely key. And I think going to that broader question of will there be organisations that will benefit greater that adopt, I think I agree with that sentiment, but I think it's a wider thing as well. I think it's for us as individuals, both personally and professionally, that people quite often ask me what's my concerns with AI. And the biggest concern I always reply is, I'm really worried we're going to have a two-tier society where that's both business and individual, that there'll be organisations and individuals that put the time into learning how to use AI properly, and those that don't. And I think there'll be a genuine gulf between the two. I gave a presentation last week where I'm old enough to have gone through the initial dot-com boom bust, and I spoke about that in terms of I was the marketing manager of a large international organisation when someone came to me and said, you need one of these websites. I went, why on earth would we need that? We've got stores, we've got different things. And that turned into, the web. Obviously, we all know what it is today, but that was a 15, 20 year sort of development cycle. I think what we're talking here in the adoption of AI is an integral part of business, and certainly digital assistants, digital human type applications, 2 or 3 years, I think it'll be widespread. I genuinely do. And that's where, if you're not thinking about it now, I think you need to review your strategy. I'm not saying you necessarily need to do something now, and not every application meets every business type, but you absolutely have to have somebody within your organisation thinking about it at a strategic level of how do we educate our teams, how do we utilise this to improve our business and keep, at very least, keep us up to date with our competition.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. I think when we've chatted previously, we've talked about the advent of email and any number of these things that we now completely take for granted as a big part of our daily lives. That at the time there are always people who will push back against it, yeah, or even just not entertain it, yeah, for whatever reason that they may have. But I think it's at their peril in terms of not realising the benefit that these technologies can bring and ultimately managing the risk. There's always risk to new tech adoption, but be aware of those risks and be part of the conversation and go on to help shape that. That's where I think certainly a lot of the people we tend to work with, often they'll be in the innovation space, or they'll be kind of emerging tech kind of roles within larger organisations. I guess it's the responsibility of those people to be looking at these technologies. We'd probably argue they're further on than emerging in many cases, yeah, but it's those people's job, and hopefully there'll be a few of them, I'm sure, kind of watching and listening to this, to be abreast of the art of the possible in this space, and to start getting on top of how it would be applied to them to empower their business and their customers.
I think that's a really key point in terms of both the awareness, but more importantly is the why aspect. It's not just applying technology because that's what you should do because it's the latest buzzword. It's what's the need for my organisation? What are my pinch points? Am I trying to improve efficiency? Am I trying to improve engagement? Do I want a better response time from my web or whatever it may be? You generally, in my opinion, you have to start with why, and then you start to apply the technologies that can answer that question. in all honesty, it's no different to any other form of digital transformation or any other form of business transformation. You need a reason for what you're doing things for, and then you find the best solution to enable that.
Yeah, and I believe this was kind of the core topic on your AI Beyond the Hype presentation recently.
Yeah, very much so. In terms of there's an awful lot of talk about AI. In my opinion, a lot of it is about the technology and not about the application. As I said before, I've been doing tech of one form or another for 25, 30 years, but I'm not a data scientist. I'm not an AI expert. Very lucky that I work with people that are. If I'm anything, I'm a customer focused, I'm a proposition guy. And that's why I always start with, whenever we speak to a customer, what are you looking to achieve? And they're like, well, I want to know about how, yeah, but what are you looking to achieve? And I think it has to start that way. Technology without purpose is just vanity, in my opinion. It has to achieve something.
Yeah, and I think in turn, those clients, those organizations need to be proactively asking their customers what's important to them, because I think sometimes there's a misunderstanding, whether it's, I don't know, in utilities where we work sometimes, and people's frustration when power cuts hit, for example, or indeed the holiday scenario where your flight is cancelled. We're not even as customers necessarily expecting all of the answers specific to what's about to happen in our scenario. It is almost more that FAQs piece of, I've never experienced this before, so what are potentially the common scenarios that could play out here? If this is more than a brief delay and it's the middle of the night and I need to be housed somewhere tonight with my young family, what will happen? What is the process? So I feel like it's those brands who have an open dialogue already with their customers. They understand what the very reasonable frustrations might be when things go wrong, and they are proactive in helping communicate with their customers during those difficult times.
Yeah, I think the other aspect of that is organisations usually have that sort of FAQ. They have that, this is what happens next type information within the document stack. And that could be on a website, it could be obviously with the staff that's on site. But where you're in a situation where you don't know where to start to look, it may as well not exist. So again, that comes back to the approach we've taken. Let's use the most natural form of communication, speech. Can you tell me what happens in? Can you tell me where I get this? How do I get that? Take me this information. And then having the ability for the digital assistant to, do you want me to WhatsApp that to you? Do you want me to email that to you? Do you want me to take you to that section on the website? Again, it's back to that interactivity bit of, I'm an employee. That's my job. If you were talking to me and we were both face to face, but I was a human employee and you were the customer, I wouldn't just say, yeah, it's on the website. I'd show you where it was on the website, or I'd tell you the clause or the details or the information that was specific to you, so you could go about your way. The other element of this, again, whether it's from a shopping perspective, a museum perspective, where you're acting as a guide, or whether you're a support person at an airport. I'm quite a clockwise person, which drives my family mad. So I am the guy that stands up every 3 minutes and looks at the board to say, oh yeah, there's still 25 minutes to go, and then we'll get up in 3 minutes. If I could just look at my phone and go, can you tell me when the flight to Malaga is? Yeah, you've still got 20 minutes. I think that would relax me as a traveller. It's about understanding customer requirements and being able to engage with them in the easiest possible way. And that's why we've gone both speech and text. Some people don't want to talk to people. Some people are very happy using DMs or WhatsApps or Slack or whatever may be appropriate. So the structure of our models incorporate all those things. Because again, from a business perspective, you want to make it as easy as possible for your customer to communicate with you. Well, don't just give them one method to do that. Let them ring in, let them message you, let them speak to someone on the website.
Great. Yeah, lovely stuff. I will now park my holiday nightmare scenario. Not at all bitter about getting in at 3:00 this morning, 30 hours after I should have been home. But no, it's a very, in my head, a very kind of pertinent example of where a brand needs to communicate as much as they possibly can. So I'll put you in touch with my tour operator, Rob, I think. Good stuff. Okay. So yeah, you mentioned that I'm interested in the fear of the two-tier kind of thing that could happen. And I guess we've seen that over the decades in terms of, you know, people that didn't have digital literacy and weren't privileged to have internet access as early as others, for example. What do you think we need to do to try and tackle that?
I think it starts with awareness and education in terms of, I think there's still some people, whilst I do accept this perception is changing, and it's changing pretty rapidly, I still think there is a perception of AI can be bad. Whereas I think we need to start talking about what are the benefits that we can derive from technology, not just what things should we be afraid of. And I think that's both an educational responsibility, a senior management or organisation responsibility, and a parental responsibility as well. So first thing is awareness. Second thing is then encouragement from an adoption perspective. And I temper all this with AI or use of AI is not an all-seeing panacea. It's not the end of. How I describe it, it's a very good 80%. It's a really, really good first draft if you're talking about a GPT type application. It's a really good start of a 10. It's a take away, some of the challenge that you don't have, but you always need our elements put in there as well, our knowledge, our approach, our things as humans. So awareness, education, support and guidance. You know, we're very lucky to operate in Liverpool City region that have embraced technology through a whole different raft of things, and they are putting awareness and support in, both from an education perspective and for courses for local businesses as well. I think that should be adopted wider. And I think whether it's a CIO, a CTO or a marketing officer, organisations should seriously consider who's going to be our tech champion, but not in a tech way, but in an application-driven usage way, and work it through. And encourage teams to use the new technology, and not be afraid to say, yeah, I've got the start of this from a language model. I've spoken to people that say, no, we've actively stopped people using GPT or Gemini or whatever it may be, and it's like, well, why? Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you ask the smartest person in the room for a start of 10? And you do get some, yeah, well, what about? No, just embrace it and learn from it.
Yeah, and I think that the world of academia is starting to, to varying degrees, I would argue, cotton on to that it's another form of accessing the knowledge the world has to offer. I think when the internet was first available as a tool. Again, there was probably that adoption curve in terms of some institutions' willingness to open that up to their students before others did. But okay, great. Just aware of bringing things to a wrap. Just a couple of quick ones, Rob. Then, in terms of the journey that Sum Vivas is on as an organisation, where are you guys up to at the moment? What are you working on that's particularly exciting, or where are you at in your journey as a growing, I'm sure, business?
So we've just launched a wider product set. So we started off with what we call Smart Kiosk, which is the application that's behind you. You walk up to it, you ask a question, you get a response. We've just launched 3 other services, which is Web Agent, Social Agent, and Phone Agent, which sit on the relevant sites, as the name suggests. They can be standalone or combination products, and people that have taken Smart Kiosks are going for Web Agents. Web Agent, I guess of all the products that we have, Web Agent is the one that I think that has the potential to do the most good in terms of accessibility, in terms of a much wider audience. You know, the Smart Kiosk is fantastic if you've got a lot of people visiting your site. If you haven't, it's not an application for you. Whereas if you can have a Web Agent, or when someone visits your website, they can give them real-time advice, they can guide them through the site, they can lead them through the information process, provide information there, and then say, okay, let me take your details, I'll send you information through, would you like me to arrange that someone from our sales team, so they'll drive the commercialization aspects as well. So that's the product I'm most excited about. Social absolutely fits in with that, and Phone Agent for anybody that's handling a large number of inbound or indeed outbound type inquiries. Where we're driving the business, two core elements. One, ensuring that we continue to have the right level of realism, and that we're not just focusing on technology, we're focusing on how do we ensure that customers can use our products without any training or any explanation. You know, the kiosk behind me, the physical deployment, we originally started off where you pressed the button and held it and asked the question, then we went to touchscreen. Now we have it so it's sensor activated, so as long as you're within a certain distance, the avatar will say, hey, Rob, how can I help you? And you're just into a conversation. So breaking down those usage barriers to ensure that our customers have the easiest adoption by their customers. Keep feeding the emotional engagement, because again, the more familiar we can have the experience, the more likely people are going to continue and engage with it. And I'd also like to think in a small way, helping to educate and drive the adoption of the benefits of this new technology. I'm desperately trying not to keep using the term AI, because I think it is massively overused. But the reality is, let's take away the fear of AI and let's talk about the efficiency, the productivity drives, the benefits that we can give to staff as well as customers by taking some of that mundane things away. And having, if you're a new staff member, you've now got the smartest team member with you that you can ask questions to whenever you want, without having the fear of thinking, I know I've asked you this 10 times and I can't ask you 11th time. Well, you can. So that's our continued focus.
Perfect. And just quickly, you're a business that recently completed on the Baltic Ventures Accelerator in Liverpool. And so I'm presuming from that you either have been or you still are in an investment journey as well?
Yeah, we completed the Accelerator 24. We're now in our first fundraise. thankfully, even though the market seemed to have gone a bit crazy over the last month or two, it's a harder investment environment from previous years anyway. It's just been added to. We've got some very, very good interest. We're taking an institutional and an angel approach. So we're speaking to angels, and we've got match funding agreed with one institution already. But again, the intention is we're only going to take on the money that we need now. We're very confident in the future. What we're looking to do is bring on some more people. And I guess that's the other core driver for the business. We chose the location in the Baltic because we want local people to work with us. We work with local colleges and universities, colleges in particular, because we want to give some people that have perhaps not had the best start in life that can join and get into a tech type organisation. And clearly we're working with the universities because they've got the right calibre and right background of people to come in at a more senior level.
Fantastic. Well, yeah, good luck with the rest of the fundraise, and I suppose that's the tightrope of AI, isn't it? Is that in some respects there's a lot of baggage with AI, but in others, I'm presuming, certainly from my experience, investors, if they're interested in anything at the moment, they're interested in AI technology or in AI integration. Yeah,
I've always worked on the premise that if you've got a good business, you'll get interest. We position ourselves as we are as an AI business, but first and foremost, we're a customer-driven, customer service organisation that just happens to use technology to make that happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Completely comes across as well, and chimes with the kind of business we are. So, and just on that, it'd be great to catch up off camera, because I think there's a whole ton of opportunity for a lot of our clients who are already exploring XR adoption, but who simply won't have looked at this type of digital human technology at all. So yeah, really interested in how in the coming months we can look to potentially kind of explore those synergies.
Yeah, more than happy to, and maybe we can put on a joint presentation or something like that that's addressing specific customer needs.
Brilliant. Yeah, sounds superb, Rob. Okay, lovely stuff. Thank you so much. We'll bring it to a close there, but thank you very much for your time today and your insight and your expertise. It's been hugely eye-opening for me, and like I say, I think there's a whole heap of value and education and awareness that people will get, not just from this episode, but from hopefully following up and researching more about digital humans and you guys in particular. So just quickly, how will people find you and the business and connect with you?
I'm on LinkedIn. Business is on LinkedIn. Our website is sumvivas.com. I'm more than happy to take contacts in any way. Obviously, if people coming through you, if you can provide my details through. But yeah, I'm pretty active within the region as well. So yeah, would love to speak with anyone, even if it's just general information. Like I say, it's about sharing information to get everybody on board.
Superb. Okay, lovely stuff. Yeah, and we'll drop any relevant links and URLs, etc., into the show notes as well. So, yeah, thank you so much, Rob. It'd be great to have you back on at some point in the future, whether it's Human Rob, Digital Rob, or maybe DJ Dex. Maybe we could run an episode with her.
We have done a podcast with Dex before, and we are doing one with her next week. So yeah, either or either. It'd be a pleasure to come back.
Amazing. Thank you ever so much, Rob. Catch you very soon.
Take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Squeezing the Juice wherever you tuned in. If you haven't already, please do give us a thumbs up or a like or a positive review. It really helps as we try and grow the show. And also, if you subscribe, you'll never miss an episode. Indeed, if this was your first episode, please do go back into the library and watch some of our previous eps with really inspiring guests from the world of extended reality. Until next time.